energy drinks. And the reason for this is because of both the taste and the amount of caffeine inside them. Now, when I drink one energy drink, like I'm doing during this round, I'm not harming myself right now. But if I continue this, if I continue drinking them every day, which I definitely do not do, then over a long period of time, 10, 20 years down the road, then I'm going to start feeling the ramifications of that. And they will be irreversible ramifications. I won't be able to snap my fingers and say, okay, I'm done drinking energy drinks now. The damage has been done. I waited to stop the threat. I waited to stop the damage it would do to my heart until it was too late. And essentially, that's what the affirmative team plan is doing. We're not wanting to wait until Russia is just about to shoot our bases. We don't want to wait until they've built up their military again. We want to stop this before it is irreversible. That is what the affirmative team is doing. And before I get into several direct responses, I want to ask one question as an observation. You can tag this question as, how much longer do we wait? Again, how much longer do we wait? Now, the negative team has been up here talking about how Russia is not a harm right now. They're not going to attack us right now because they're not that much of a threat. But how much longer do we wait until they are a threat? And how much longer do we wait until we put these defenses into the bases? There is no actual time frame for this, and we need to take the steps now to protect critical bases. But they put two burdens on the affirmative team. The first burden was that of lack of deterrence, and the second burden was that of threat to U.S. bases. Our simple response to lack of deterrence is bases are vulnerable. Again, bases are vulnerable. Now, what the affirmative team plan is doing is attempting to create deterrence from Russia by not allowing cruise missiles to hit these bases. As they admitted in cross-examination, we cannot defend against these cruise missiles in the bases. We want to put these systems into the bases so that we have that deterrence. And this leads me into Faith's double bind, which she talked about, the disadvantage versus solvency double bind. And I found this interesting because she was talking about how if we put a defensive system into our bases, it's going to encourage Russian aggression. Judge, this makes absolutely no sense. We are putting these systems into the bases to say, please don't attack us because we now have defenses. That's not going to make them want to attack us. That's going to show them that if they do, we can now defend. The disadvantage makes no sense. Air Force bases in Europe have defense against cruise missiles.
Yes.
They do.
The 4 bases that you're talking about don't. Every other base in Europe does.
Okay, so if these 4 air bases, they don't have defense, is there a danger of them being attacked?
No.
Okay, you would agree that Russia has the ability to attack them and they can't defend?
Just because they have the ability doesn't mean that they will.
Okay, so to be clear, at any time if Russia wanted to, they could send a cruise missile and wipe out these air bases, correct?
They could, but Russia will never do that.
Okay, interesting. So you went on talking about how Russia is incapable, correct?
Yes.
You would agree that Russia still has the ability to fire these missiles,
They have
correct?
the ability, but they are such destroyed by this Ukraine war and so many resources that is extremely, extremely illogical for them to get into a war with the US and NATO.
But you would agree that we would want to prevent even the idea of this happening, correct?
Not if it wastes American taxpayer dollars for a threat that's not even there.
You would agree $100 million in the long run is not that much money, correct?
It's still a large amount of money, and we still can't just say that's a small amount of money for such a small threat as well.
Sure. We're talking about how we're increasing troops in this region, correct?
Yes.
All right. Can troops shoot down cruise missiles?
No, but it shows that we have a strong presence to counterattack any attack of Russia, proving the theory of mutually assured destruction.
So you originally placed 2 burdens on the affirmative team, and the first one was prove the EU will desire, correct?
Yes.
All right. Do you remember from the 1AC, we were talking about this past precedent, correct?
Yes.
And you would agree, in the past, when we opened up our skies to the European countries or companies, they came in willingly, correct?
That was completely different. That was open skies agreements versus the cabotage law. Faith may get into more responses.
Can you explain that difference?
Open Skies Act says that European airlines are able to fly cross-continentally. Cabotage is 2 areas like Wyoming to Idaho.
Sure, so to be clear, both of them allow European planes to come into the United States, correct?
Sure, and Faith will be getting into the responses. I don't have the evidence in front of me.
All right, and then you were talking about the EU ability, and I want to get into your solvency argument here. You were talking about how EU airlines don't have the capacity right now, correct?
Correct.
All right, you would agree that the first card you read under that, specifically talking about how they're canceling flights, this is talking about because of the COVID pandemic, correct?
Yes.
All right, and so because of COVID, everyone canceled flights, not because of a shortage, but because COVID had restrictions on how many people could fly, correct?
No, it was talking about the shortages due to coronavirus, and we've actually seen those shortages the exact same way after those lockdowns came down.
Sure. But I first want to address Will's analysis of the open skies agreements being a strong difference. Our response to this is proves want. Again, proves want. Now, never once have we stated that these are the same, and we're not saying that because open skies agreements benefited the economy, then that's why cabotage is going to benefit the economy. What did we mean by inserting that into the 1AC? What we showed was when we opened up our skies to European companies, they came in. That's all that we proved. But that is an empiric fact. When we opened up our skies, they came in. But why are they going to come in further? Why are they going to send more companies? Our response to this is benefit for European companies. Let's benefit for European companies. And one thing that has not been disputed throughout today's debate round is that there is a shortage of planes and pilots in the United States, meaning that there is a gap between people who need tickets and people who are actually getting tickets. We need more planes. And what this means is the European companies are able to get guaranteed consumers getting onto their planes. They are guaranteed to actually get that business, meaning they receive that economic advantage. But my final response to this is that of excess planes, and this fulfills the final burden of EU ability. Now, Will's response to this, as well as Faith's, was simply that it doesn't apply because this was from COVID. Our first response is the same article. Again, the same article. Now, they keep reading this evidence saying they're short 35 to 4,000 planes, and this applies. However, later on in that same article, it says, despite this, we have 18,000 additional unnecessary flights. If our evidence doesn't apply, then neither does theirs. It absolutely applies because they're saying that theirs does. What we're saying is, with COVID, yes, they had to cancel 34,000 flights, but still with those cancellations, we had 18,000 excess flights. But it goes on to say, and it applies it to all of Europe, and it goes on to say that Europe as a whole sent 100,000 ghost flights altogether. That's how many excess planes they have. They are not in a shortage right now. But then he got into this argument, or Faith got into this argument of old evidence. And I'm actually quite happy she ran this argument. Our response to this was no shortage in 2014. That's no shortage in 2014. Now, why is this important? It's because when this article was written back in 2014, there wasn't a shortage, meaning they were competing companies and they had the same economies. What the difference is now with the shortage is it's more advantage for Europe. Now that we're in the shortage, they have more planes and more competition that is guaranteed to them. That's why the shortage benefits not only us, but European companies. It's going to benefit consumers, it's going to benefit European companies, and we're going to receive those benefits by passing our plan.